Is there an age limit on creativity? We're going to talk about that in a moment.
Welcome to the Brand Telling Podcast, where we share secrets, systems, and strategies you can use to unleash the power of story to build and grow your brand. The Brand Telling Podcast is brought to you by the award-winning team at Communication Strategy Group, bringing a combined 50-plus years of publishing, agency, and client strategy, creative, and tactical marketing experience. Please welcome your hosts, Principal and Chief Brand Teller Arthur Germain, and Creative Director Michael Simbram.
Whether it's working on the positioning of a global brand or the business strategy of a startup, my guest, Eddie Prentiss, takes on projects armed with enthusiasm, a positive attitude, and some common sense. His expertise includes traditional, digital, user experience, broadcast, print, social, public relations, experiential, and shopper marketing. Among his many titles, Eddie is a senior creative director and marketing professional and the founder and executive director of Creageless, a community for creative professionals. So, Eddie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me here, Arthur.
So, Eddie, I did your intro a little bit ago. What I left out of your intro was how we met. We met because our daughters attend school together. And we met at a parents' weekend, and I recall doing the usual thing. Hi, my name's Arthur. And you said, hi, my name's Ed. We shook hands, and I said, so what do you do? And you kind of said, I'm an art director. Nobody knows that. And I'm like, I run a marketing agency. And you're like, okay, you're the only person in the room who knows that.
Yeah, it was kind of the odds of that. The serendipity involved, I guess, was convenient at the time. And, we had stuff to talk about while the girls were out looking at the campus and probably didn't want their dads in the general vicinity.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's funny. They find out sometimes that we've spoken. I'll say, yeah, I talked to Eddie today. And they're like, really? You're talking to my friend's dad? I'm like, yeah. See, sometimes dads make friends too. And they're always surprised by that. So how are you doing? We find ourselves something like 75, 76 days into lockdown across the country. How are you doing with your business right now?
Well, things are doing well for me. I have a full-time position. I'm an executive creative director at an ad agency in Washington, D.C. So our clients are primarily government clients. So they're actually very busy right now. So fortunately for my situation, I've been able to stay gainfully employed and working on a pretty steady basis. However, like most of the country, we are working remote until things get settled down a little bit.
So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your background? How did you get to the role that you have today?
Well, I guess to make the long story short, after college, I looked like a lot of people do, looked around to see what I wanted to do. And I thought advertising was pretty interesting. And I ended up going to a specialty school, a postgraduate school, a 2-year program in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was able to get my advertising portfolio together. And after I graduated there, went to Minneapolis and spent a majority of my career there working at ad agencies around the Twin Cities, and then started my own business there. It was ironically, it was a postgraduate school similar to the one that I had attended, and have been doing that for quite a while now. And that's kind of where I ended up where I'm at today, doing a little bit of everything. So I still work in the business, but I spend a lot of time working with students as well from around the country.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to get together a few months ago, pre-pandemic, and I met some of your colleagues and students. It was a good time. Everybody had good things to say about knowing Eddie. It was very funny. Like, oh, you're friends of Eddie? Okay, great, we're friends now. So it was a good thing, and I think it's a good lead into what you have created today. And today, on the podcast, what I'd like to do is focus on Creageless and the community that you've created there. And, so maybe you can first tell us what it is and correct my pronunciation, and maybe we can walk into why you created it and what the community is about.
Yeah, sure. It is Creageless. It's kind of tricky to spell, and when you see it, it's kind of tricky to pronounce. But it's basically creativity is ageless. And as I was going through a job search several years ago, I started talking to peers of mine and found that they were having difficulty finding jobs themselves when the recession had hit, and they were bringing up the topic of ageism, and I hadn't really experienced it yet and was surprised how often I was hearing about it. And I put that in the back of my brain and kept about my business, and I secured my new position. And then about a few years later, when I was looking again, it became even more prevalent to me. I became more aware that it was more prevalent than I had expected, ageism in the advertising community, as I talked to other people who were looking at new jobs or job changes or whatever their situation was. And the interesting thing was, if I compare that to, I told you before, I started that group. I started that school, which is a postgraduate school. So I was regularly talking to people in their mid-20s, and those people had concerns. They were concerned about their financial well-being, their future, their family members, how their career was going to affect them. And quite frankly, some of them just didn't know what to do next. And when I talk to younger people, that's where their headspace is at. What I found is, as I started talking to people in my cohort, asking, what's going on with you? They were concerned about financial situations, what was coming next, how it affected their family, their children, their parents. And it was the same. Both groups had the exact same concerns. And what I looked at is, well, I've helped all these people in their 20s for the past 2 decades. What can I do for people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond? Is there a way I can help them as they try to figure out what they're trying to do? And that's where Creageless was founded and born.
Well, it's interesting because we've heard about ageism in other industries, but what's interesting to me is that the creative industry, you would think that experience and being relevant, that those somehow would go hand in hand. It's interesting that that's not the case. That someone who has got years of experience and a portfolio, as you had mentioned earlier, putting together a portfolio, somebody who has a portfolio of work, that that somehow ends up being a hindrance or a challenge for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of misperceptions out there. I was just in a webinar last week where they were talking about some of the myths and the perception that maybe somebody who's in the business is going to, or in a certain age, is going to cost more. They're going to have a harder time with technology. There are societal stereotypes that weigh in as you hit different age groups, all the way. It doesn't matter if you're a Gen Z or if you're a boomer. Everywhere in there's stereotypes that we apply to those people. And those stereotypes, as we get to be in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, become more negative as they're attached to career performance. And it's unfortunate, and it's not true. And in many cases, it can finish somebody's career off or not allow them to re-enter the workforce. But that does happen, and it's more prevalent than people will realize.
It's interesting. I think one of my favorite, I think it's a New Yorker cartoons, is there's 2 panels, and in the first panel you see an old fish passing by 2 young fish, and the old and underneath the old fish is speaking to them and says, "Nice water we're having." And in the next panel, it's just the 2 young fish and one looking at the other going, "What the heck is water?" And it's I've often thought about that as an older fish, that we're aware of the technology and just what it takes to achieve that. We're on a podcast, and I know just what it takes to achieve this podcast, to avoid audio jitter, to be talking on a VoIP line and recording to WAV files. And when I explain that to someone younger, they don't always know all of the tech terms and all the technology. They just know, turn it on and it works. On the other hand, they're much faster on any of the new apps than I am, and they're quicker to show me how a different app might serve the same purpose as something that I was doing that took much longer. So I think that there's a back and forth between age groups or cohorts, as you put it, that we sometimes miss. I wonder if that fell into some of the myths that you heard in the webinar.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, sometimes you'll hire someone who knows Instagram inside and out, but they only know it from how to use it, not necessarily how to put it into play strategically. So there is a balance as we go through our own careers and our own the knowledge and the wisdom that we gain along the way. But there is also a certain skill set that we may not have that another geographic, a demographic from an age perspective might have. And I think when we look at how younger people interact with older people, it's critical in everybody's workforce, right? Because the generations do blend, whether people recognize it or not. And we just had a member join our peer group who's under 40, and that's fine. I mean, the group was started because there was a need in the 40 plus, but I've often thought about eventually the ageless part would take over and we could start to blend people. So I was really excited when this one person, media person out of New York said, "Hey, I'd like to be in the group. And I think there's a lot I can learn, a lot I can contribute." And we were like, "Sure, welcome, come on in." And he's been a great member to have. And he's a decade younger, he's in his 30s, at least a decade younger than most of the other participants in that particular group. But everyone's contributing and everyone's helping, and everyone's supporting each other. So it's really worked out well.
That's great. So tell me a little bit about the makeup of the Creageless group. Who are the members, or where do they come from in general?
Yeah, they come from pretty much all over the place. We have a Facebook group, a free Facebook group online, and then we have peer groups that are similar to mastermind groups. And I guess the primary makeup is they come in with three different directions. One would be they're looking at a career transition. So either they've been laid off, or they're in a job and they just want a different job within their industry, or maybe they want to switch industries completely. So they're in that career mode. The other group are people who are in the entrepreneurial phase. Maybe they're working and they want to do a side hustle that they want to turn into a business. They want to start a new business, cold turkey. They just want to get something up and running they've been thinking about forever. Or perhaps they have a business currently and they just need the support and the people around them to go ahead and help them with networks and contacts and ideas and thoughts and strategies and all the things they need there. And then the third group are people who they may not need any of that other stuff. We call it the service group. They financially they might be in a great spot, and they're looking at how do they give back. And are they mentoring, educating? Are they working with nonprofits, starting a nonprofit? Those are the three main sort of categories of people that we deal with. And the common thread is they either come from a creative industry. We found that people who are in advertising often have been in theater. People who are in theater have writing skills. People who are writing maybe want to do acting. And everybody's probably been a musician at some point in our group of some level. So that was always the common thread, is this sort of creativity aspect. The other tangent on that is there might be someone who's been in an industry that's not necessarily considered creative, maybe finance or some things, or engineering, and they just want to move into something else. So they might be, if they were, for example, a successful accountant for 20 or 30 years, and they go, "I've always wanted to do voiceover work. How do I do that? Where do I start? Where would I begin?" Well, we have a whole community there to help build a network for them and provide them with that kind of information and the support to go ahead and do it. And that's the critical thing, Arthur, is when I was saying earlier about comparing the two groups, the younger people and the older people, the value and the strength of being younger is you have time to make mistakes, right? You've got leeway, you've got wiggle room, you're invincible, you've got all that going for you when you're in your mid-20s, and that doesn't downplay the concerns that you have when you're there, but that's the plus you have. And when I was comparing the two groups, I was like, well, what are the pluses that we have? We're on the opposite end. We're kind of worried about things, worried about time. It's a big pressure for us. But what we have is not just knowledge and wisdom, but we have a network. I know a lot of people. I know some people who are very, very successful. I know some people who are very smart. I've had an entire lifetime to build a network that I can bring to bear. And when I was looking for my own job search, I realized that a lot of times my network wasn't able to help me. But I'd get off the phone and I'd be like, I need to hook that person up with Arthur. Boy, they would be great. And the network is the power of what we have, in addition to the knowledge that we've built up over the years. And when we bring that to bear, and when you get into a group with 5 5 or 6 people that are focused on helping each other and moving each other forward in whatever their individual goals are. And when I start talking about their individual goals, it's going to surprise you what people are doing in our groups. But that's super powerful. That is really, really powerful. And people often underestimate the value of their network, not just to themselves, but to other people.
That's interesting you say that. Even I work with a lot of technology companies, and tech companies often look at a network as the physical network, the interconnection. And what they've often said is that the network's power grows in its connectivity to other devices. So think about the internet, that the internet and the power of the internet grows in its interconnectedness with other servers and other devices. So it's no different for human networks, that the power of the network, as you've said, the fact that you know someone, and that when you connect with a new someone, you get to connect with all the other people they know who you don't. And I think you're right. I think that a younger group, people who are just coming in the industry, they certainly don't have that kind of a network. And, if both sides are open to it, there's a lot of win-win there.
Oh, definitely. And the energy level too, because it's easy as you get older to become more, I don't want to say jaded, but you can be, right? And younger people, and again, I'm stereotyping here, but they tend to be excited about things and they want to get things going. And some people in our community need that. Now, I will tell you, I talked to a 76-year-old woman who's teaching dance classes through Zoom, and that woman does not need to be energized by anybody. And that goes back to the myths that we talk about. She's fired up and she's excited and she's working with her students, and she picked up the technology. I walked her through how to set up her Zoom class, and she's doing it on her own now. It's not like she wasn't able to do it. So, myth busted there. And she's got all the energy in the world, and she's super interesting to talk to. And I can only imagine who she knows in the community. And just from talking to her for just a few sessions, realizing her backstory and all the interesting things she's done, I can only imagine if I needed something in that world, she probably knows somebody who's been pretty successful doing it and would be a great resource. So it's just, you're right. It's about it's also, I think, being aware of the connectivity. Like when we get into the groups, I've been in groups before, and they kind of ramble around, and you meet once a week or once a month and nothing gets done. And that's not the way we're set up. Everybody gets an opportunity. Everybody gets homework assignments, and the homework assignments in the groups and the peer groups are not just for you. So if you came in and said, "Hey, I'm going to start a pizza place. I want to start my own business." You leave there with tasks, and I might, and I, as your peer group member, I might go, "You know what, Arthur? I know 2 guys that have started pizza places, and you need to talk to them. They've both done it. They've done it forever. You need to talk to them. Here they are. Boom. Or my homework is to go and find somebody that's done that for you, in my network. And so I leave there with homework as well, not just for myself, but for other people. And we're all held accountable. It's what can I, and in fact, we talk to our members about what can you do for someone else in the group? And then what can you do for yourself? And that starts to pay it off. We're doing a cool thing right now where one of the women, she's from New York, she's in Manhattan, and she wants to develop her portfolio for content writing. And she's been writing articles for us, and it's building her portfolio, and we're all editing for her and reading and reviewing. And she came up with a concept. She's like, I was walking around New York, and she goes, I'm seeing all this street art. This art is awesome. I've never seen it before because it's covered with people walking by. So she went out and took all these pictures, and one of the guys goes, I love that stuff. The media person who happens to also be from New York, he's like, I collect all that on my Instagram. And then one of the guys who's in the group and from Indiana, because these people are from all over the country, he was like, I'm going to go do that with my daughter this weekend. So we're about to put up a post today where she's collected all the street art. She's wrote a great, beautiful post about it. And I've got other members who want to contribute, who actively want to contribute and support her, and also are benefiting from it as well. And that's just one example of how a simple idea she had, when you bring everyone together, people start getting excited and things start happening. And, that's to me, that's the exciting part about the whole process.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you, Ed, how can someone look into Creageless, perhaps become a member? What are the ways that they can connect and contact you?
Yeah, the easiest way is just go to the website. It's Creageless, Creageless, Creageless.com. And when you get in there, you can dig around a little bit. There's articles, and we'll be starting a podcast in the fall. And the easiest thing to do is go to the membership page. You'll see you can join the Facebook group for free, get in there and just see some of the stuff we post for our free members. But if you really have a project that you want to get going, and that can be anything, Arthur, we have people who are doing bucket list things. One guy was like, I don't really need a job, but I've got a good job. But I've always wanted to do comedy. How would I even start doing that? And we brought together a group of comedians that are going to put together some educational things that will help other people, but also directed it towards him so he could talk to those people. So it can be something like a bucket list like that too. I have a woman in Dallas. Her and her husband are going to retire in 5 to 10 years, and they're working on a business plan because they want to start a bed and breakfast, and the group helping them work through that. So the variety is crazy. So bring whatever the thing you've ever wanted to do, whatever that is, you bring that to the group, and we'll help you. We'll support you, and they can go to the website again. It's Creageless.com, and sign up for a membership. It's month to month, so there's not no long-term commitment if they don't like it. And just get in and meet some folks and start getting something done. Because the biggest thing, Arthur, is as you get older, you need to start realizing people are going to start controlling your life unless you control your life yourself, and you do the things you want to do, and you start to appreciate time or the lack thereof, and everything counts. And if you want to sit around and blink, 5 years are going to go by. But if you want to come in and get something done, then in those 5 years, you'll have achieved something that you can feel good about. And that's really what we're about is as we've all been there before. So we all know where we've been, but we want to figure out where we're going, make something happen, and get to the next place. And if anyone's listening and that's where their head is at right now, and they just need whether it's a kick in the butt or whether it's just pure support, if they come on over to Creageless.com, I think you'll find some people there that are fired up and ready to help out.
Ed, thank you so much for coming on, talking about this today. And just to repeat, Creageless, Creageless.com, and also the Creageless Facebook group. We encourage people to take a look. And thank you, Eddie Prentiss, founder of Creageless, for joining us and being on the Brand Telling Podcast today.
Thank you, Arthur. I appreciate it.
Build a better brand story for your business. Schedule a complimentary consultation with the brand tellers at Communication Strategy Group. Send a note to contact-us at gocsg.com or visit us at communicationstrategygroup.com/contact.